It was just last week that 97-year-old former Republican Senator Bob Dole announced that he was being treated for stage 4 lung cancer. And over the weekend, he received a surprise visit from somebody he served in the Senate with for about a quarter of a century, one President Joe Biden, who described Bob Dole as a close friend. It's November 1996.
William Jefferson Clinton has a job for 4 more years.
Our journey is not done. My fellow Americans, we have work to do, and that's what this election was all about.
The third youngest president in history has just defeated the man running to be the oldest 73-year-old Republican Senator, Bob Dole.
I have said repeatedly in this campaign that the president is my opponent, not my enemy, and I wish him well and I pledge my support.
Dole was gracious, but the defeat was galling to many Conservatives. He'd lost to someone who represented everything they hated about the post-war baby boom generation. A selfish, unfaithful draft dodger. They called him Slick Willie.
I can only tell you that I don't think Senator Dole is too old to be president. It's the age of his ideas that I question.
Ouch. In fact, Bob Dole's 1996 presidential bid never really got off the ground. It felt more like a farewell tour. His fall from a stage in California summed up his stumbling campaign. Dole had taken large donations from the tobacco industry as well, estimated about $500,000, and he looked pretty bought when he said, "I guess it's addictive to some and not to others." He looked old, out of touch, just another political hack. It was the end of 2 decades at the centre of the American political stage, beginning when Dole was made Gerald Ford's vice presidential running mate.
I'm just very pleased to be here. I'm very proud to be on the ticket with President Ford.
Dole was in the first ever vice presidential debate with fellow Senator, Democrat Walter Mondale. Despite flashes of wit, Dole mostly came across as stern and a bit of a hatchet man.
I figured up the other day, if we added up the killed and wounded in Democrat wars in this century, it'd be about 1.6 million Americans, enough to fill the city of Detroit.
During that debate, Dole talked about his own military service, which had left him with a withered right arm and almost cost him his life.
My whole life changed because of my experience in Italy. I know the Italian people. I know they're God-fearing, freedom-loving people. I couldn't quite understand what
It was May 1945, just 3 weeks before the end of the war in Europe. 21-year-old Lieutenant Bob Dole was leading an American Army platoon in the mountains of northern Italy. During a battle with German forces, Dole was hit by machine gun fire or shrapnel, maybe both, right across his arms and back. He lay paralysed in a bomb crater for 9 hours, bleeding heavily, his spine damaged, his right arm almost severed, the shoulder blade and collarbone ripped away. He wasn't expected to live. He spent more than 3.5 years in a body cast in various military hospitals in Europe and the United States. After suffering a near-fatal infection, he was sent back to his hometown of Russell, Kansas, to be closer to his family when he died.
Cigarette?
At that time, the Army handed out free cigarettes. You could smoke in hospital beds. And for a time, Bob Dole did smoke, but later he quit, and slowly his body recovered from his wounds, although his right arm could never be put back together. Dole went to night school and started placing pens or pieces of paper in his permanently clenched right fist to disguise the injury. He studied law under the GI Bill. He won his first election to the Kansas House in 1950, the US House in 1960, and the Senate 8 years later.
Congressman Robert Dole, the Republican.
He earned a reputation as a conservative prepared to compromise. He supported civil rights and advocated for veterans and people with disabilities. 4 years after he and Ford lost to Carter and Mondale, Senator Bob Dole ran for president in a crowded 1980 Republican field dominated by the star power of former California Governor Ronald Reagan. 8 years later, Dole tried again to snatch the nomination away from Reagan's Vice President George Bush, and he won a surprise victory in the first in the nation Iowa caucuses, but he couldn't stop Bush's march to the nomination and the White House.
Solemnly swear.
3 decades on, at the age of 95, with a little help, Bob Dole would lift his battered frame from his wheelchair for a final salute to his friend and former rival. Dole supported Jeb Bush's White House campaign in 2016 before becoming the only former Republican nominee to endorse Donald Trump.
Well, I like Donald Trump because he's a strong leader and he is someone who can work with Congress. If you can't work with Congress, you can't get anything done.
But by last December, Dole had seen enough, telling reporters the election is over and Biden will be president. It's a pretty bitter pill for Trump, but it's a fact. He lost. 3/4 of a century after he nearly died on the battlefield in Italy, Bob Dole is again fighting for his life. President Biden visited him at his apartment in Washington's infamous Watergate building a day after making this pledge.
I want you to know that once we beat COVID, we're going to do everything we can to end cancer as we know it.